Hey everybody, Nick here from 4playernetwork.com, and I'm standing here with Al from Creative Assembly. We just got done playing a pretty hefty demonstration of the Alien Isolation, and we saw a single-player campaign demonstration. I had a few questions for you. The game looks awesome, first of all.
Great, thank you.
Actually, honestly, it's probably one of the scariest games I've played in a very long time. So, y'all are Creative Assembly, so Alien Isolation seems like a game that may not be typically something you would expect from Creative Assembly. So, how did you come about the project?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm getting asked that question quite a few times. So this came absolutely from us. You know, we were big fans of that first film, Alien, and it just felt like no one had made the Alien game that we wanted to play. I think games based in the franchise in the past had really focused on the James Cameron Aliens experience.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, Marines and pulse rifles and lots of aliens, and that's totally a cool experience. That's great.
Yeah.
It felt like there was a huge opportunity to take the player back to the origins, back to Ridley Scott's Haunted House in Space, where just one alien would be really meaningful and terrifying and really intelligent and hunting the player down.
Definitely. Yeah, historically, for me at least, the films that feature one alien have always been kind of my favorite. So I guess that leads to the alien itself. So there's one alien that's hunting you throughout this entire game. What can you tell us about the alien and the AI that's running the alien?
Sure. So we realized early on as well that our alien couldn't be running under any prescribed paths or patterns. We couldn't kind of define what it would be doing because the player would learn, and the sort of scariness would diminish as you learn the patterns. And so we took the choice to let the alien just run under its own senses. So it's looking for you, it's listening for you, and so that meant that every time you play it, you get a different experience.
Yeah, definitely. I died a few times and came back, and there were times where I would see him like searching in one room, and I came out kind of expecting him to do the same thing, and then sure enough, I got cornered, and so it's unpredictable.
It's absolutely unpredictable, and I think that's one of the joys for as developers of the game, coming to E3 and just watching how people, when they encounter the alien, the sort of approach they take, how they respond to it, and how they survive.
Exactly, and it really created. When I was playing, one thing I really loved about it was I got this real sense of being hunted by the alien. Like I couldn't tell if he was in the vents or if he was, through a wall or where he was. It was very isolating.
Yeah, so I mean, it's in a way that's exactly that. It's about the information that you have at hand, and like these sort of moment-to-moment choices. It's about player choice and trying to figure out what your best next move is going to be.
Yes. Also, one question I had. So there were several instances in the demonstration where the alien would come through the room and I would be hiding behind something, and I couldn't quite get a sense of what the alien could actually see, or like when I was visible, when I was invisible to him. What can you tell me about that? As far like what's the best way to predict whether you're exposed?
We're being really unfair because we're really people coming to E3 and playing that bit of code. We're really dropping them into the deep end.
Yes.
You haven't had a chance to experience the alien before and start to get to grips with I suppose some of the sort of the way it telegraphs its intention or what it's thinking. It is actually like sound is an important part. You can kind of get a sense of what it knows about the world around it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the thing. Over time in the game, you'll have built that a small amount of understanding up, and you kind of start to learn sort of notice these tells.
Even during the short time that I spent with it, the first time I played it, I think I died in the room where I started.
Okay.
And then as I went, I started to learn more and more. Like I got a little braver every time, and I ventured out farther. And I started to pick up on those things. So even as I was playing the demo, I was kind of learning as I went, and I started lasting longer and longer.
Absolutely.
So.
I mean, that's one of the things we've seen is someone might come in and play it like a first-person shooter, charging around, running.
Yeah.
They die.
Totally different mentality.
But then the great thing for us is we see them adapt.
Yes.
And rapidly change. The game's kind of saying, try something else.
Yeah.
And seeing people being really open and to this experience,
yes.
and changing the way they play and actually getting a huge amount of pleasure from it.
Yeah, and it was a very different kind of experience, which is awesome. So we saw the campaign demonstration. We noticed there are some human enemies in the game.
Yep.
What can you tell me about how prominent they are, what kind of role they play in the game?
Sure. So the game takes place on this very remote deep space station, which is kind of in the throes of being decommissioned. There's a really small inhabitants on there, and they're in the same situation as the player. They're desperate to survive, which makes them really unpredictable.
Yeah.
And so, you know, they're very nervous. They're very jumpy. Some of them are armed, and so again, it's up to the player how they want to interact with those characters, and how you're going to try to, you know, make sure that you survive.
So, not every interaction you have with a human necessarily means it's going to be a volatile reaction, right?
No,
you might run into some friendlies.
So in that slice of the main campaign that we're showing in our theatre, I mean, if you get to a certain point if you don't surprise someone and you walk up to them, they might raise their weapon and say, back away.
Oh, okay.
And if you do, they'll leave you alone.
That's cool.
You know, and that's one way of avoiding confrontation.
Yeah,
you know,
that reminds me of a few games. I Am Alive is a game that had some elements like that, which I really like. That's a really awesome choice you have there. Also, in the demo, we saw the synthetics or the android type enemies from the movie, which are, you know, really popular now. So, how prominent are those in the game?
Again, the Seegson is the corporation that runs the station, so it's different to Weyland-Yutani. They're way behind in the tech race, so they have no chance of making something as sophisticated as Ash from the first film.
Yes.
So they have their own kind of biomechanical android, or the synthetics. They're called Working Joes, and they kind of have taken the angle of, well, you know, these guys aren't human. They're there to help you.
Yeah.
And again, they're unpredictable in the game. Sometimes they are a benefit to the player. They help them. They're very helpful.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're neutral.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're actively
quite tough to kill. It seems
actively against you.
Cool. So the demo that we played was the challenge mode. Is that a completely separate mode, or is that worked into the campaign itself?
So that's a completely separate mode that we announced at E3.
Uh-huh.
It's a really condensed experience. It's a really intense experience. You know, you're trapped in a location with the alien, and you know, that you're up against the clock. And there's some optional other objectives.
Yeah.
And it's just a really interesting and really fun and intense version of the game.
Intense is definitely a word I would use. So obviously this is more based off like the original Alien film. Where in the I guess the lore, the timeline does it say? But you play as Ripley's daughter, correct?
Yeah.
So where in the timeline does this necessarily take place for fans of the films?
Sure. So this takes place. Alien Isolation takes place 15 years after the Nostromo goes missing. And Weyland-Yutani believes someone has found the black box flight recorder of the Nostromo.
Okay.
So they send a small crew to go and retrieve it. And Amanda, you know, who's been searching for kind of some answers as to her mother's disappearance, volunteers to be part of that crew.
Okay, that sounds awesome. So can we expect? You may not be able to say anything about this, but can we expect any other cameos from familiar characters from the Alien universe in here?
Well, I think, you know, where we started was we wanted to kind of, you know, I think in Amanda we found this amazing character who was in the universe, but she's Ellen Ripley's daughter, but her story hadn't been told. So I think Alien Isolation is very much about her journey and her story.
Cool. And this is one last question for you. I heard this game is playable on the Oculus Rift.
That's correct.
Here at E3.
That's correct.
What can you tell me about that? And is that something that y'all are just kind of playing with, or is that confirmed to be? Is this coming to the Oculus Rift?
Right. So what we're showing on the Oculus stand at E3 is, I guess what we're calling a prototype, and is genuinely that. It's us creating this prototype experience. You know, as Creative Assembly, you know, we're big PC fans.
Yeah.
We're always looking at new technology as well. And so this is something that, you know, we're looking at, and it's just an incredible, phenomenal experience. So I recommend everyone check it out.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna head over to the other hall here pretty soon and check that out. Although it's a little terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, with the latest Oculus Rift, it really takes the game in a completely different direction. It's so physical. It's very tangible. You know, the fact that you can move your head around, and it's very intuitive, and yeah, it's just amazing.
Well, it sounds frightening, but it's an opportunity that I probably can't pass up. So I'm going to go check that out.
Great.
So the game's coming out October 7th.
October 7th.
On PS4, actually all platforms, right? PS4, Xbox 360, PS3,
So yeah, Xbox One, Xbox 360, PS4, PS3, and PC.
Sounds good. Well, Al, thank you so much for your time. It's been
welcome.
a pleasure. Game's a lot of fun.
Thanks
and
a lot.
I guess keep it locked here at 4playernetwork.com. We'll have more podcasts, interviews, impressions, all that good stuff. Thanks a lot.